Hello and welcome to the stream. Perfidy, confusion, strife, turmoil. These are the words that I think best describe the conditions that we find ourselves in today when looking at the events going on in the Middle East, and I have every intention to talk about those things with you guys tonight. Once we get enough people in here, we'll start the conversation and hopefully we'll have fun, and maybe we'll be able to change some hearts and minds, or at least plant some seeds. Who knows? We'll see what happens. Justice for the Iranian people is never going to come at the behest of Israeli U.S. bombs. I don't know if you know this, but bombs are not exactly renowned for their ability to bring freedom and democracy. They're actually more known for being explosive and bringing death and destruction. It's kind of the whole point of dropping a bomb. If you wanted to bring freedom and democracy, you'd be dropping Starlink connections and propaganda pamphlets. If you wanted to bring freedom and democracy, there's a number of things you could be dropping on Iran that aren't missiles, bombs, and various implements of war. We shall see, though. We shall see. May they take control of their country? Yeah, may they take control of their country. The person most likely to read, no, fucking idiot. The person most likely to lead a future Iranian revolution or some kind of like opposition movement to the current government is a Western-backed puppet, the son of the former Shah, a man named Reza Pahlavi, who is perfectly willing to go along with whatever military action has to be undergone and whatever action has to be taken to put him back in power. Seeing more videos of mass exodus from US, get wild while you can, just a bunch of voices in my opinion. Instead of saying trying to make it better, you're going to go somewhere else. I tend to agree. That's kind of why I'm careful about my rhetoric about telling people to leave the South. I generally tell people, like, if you really feel like you have to leave the South because you just don't have any other choice and like you got to, like, okay, fine. But if you're able to, you should stay and fight. Even if you are a trans person or a marginalized person who's going to be inconvenienced or perhaps even like oppressed by your remaining presence there, it's like I keep bringing up this argument that people did not make the massive progress that we had in the queer movement in the 80s and the 90s and everything else by just making arguments for queer audiences in queer cities in places that were already comfortable with them. Largely, we did it by being out there and visible, no matter what people thought about us. And the movement for liberation for all kinds of marginalized communities can proceed in very much the same fashion. Those patches are awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. The South is beautiful. Unfortunately, a lot of the people in the South are pretty backwards, and what people are not backwards are largely disenfranchised. I don't think that the majority of the South is backwards, mind you. I think that the fact of it is, our politics have basically been subverted down here ever since they ended Reconstruction. The Southern United States has effectively never had actually representative political representation because poor people and black people and brown people have pretty much always been systematically excluded from Southern elections. Now that we've got 100 more people in here, we have a new death toll for Trump and Bibi Netanyahu's illegal war in Iran. 6 U.S. service members so far have died in the line of fire because of actions undertaken, once again, by the United States and Israeli governments. They decided to attack a country that they were engaged in active, ongoing talks with. By the way, that's a war crime. It's called perfidy. When asked about this, when he finally did make a statement, the president said that we should expect more American deaths, that we should actually expect more of our brothers, sisters, fathers, husbands, mothers, etc., to die in this conflict. Why? For what purpose? For what reason? To destroy Iran's nuclear capabilities. But wait, Phoebes, I thought that was what the point was last year. And I thought last year when they struck, they said they got all the sites. They did. They did. That's the funny thing about this conflict. It's a continuation of a 40-year-long trend. Since the 1979 revolution, the West has consistently claimed that Iran is just around the corner from getting ICBMs and nukes. This has never been demonstrated to be true. This has never been proven to the people in any way. There are also a lot of people that are acting like this is something specific to Trump, or that this is something specific to Israel in its modern form and this administration or Netanyahu's administration. It's not. This is an ongoing project. You have to understand the West has wanted to retain control of the entire Middle East for about 100 years now. And this is just another step in that long process. They've wanted control of Iran specifically for at least 60 years. We deposed the democratically elected Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh back in the 50s, and it was the Shah's cruel rule over those people that caused them to revolt in 1979 and install the Ayatollah. We've been fighting the Ayatollah's rule ever since because they effectively represent the only last concerted effort to reject and resist American and, well, not just American, but Western control over the Middle East. Keep running your mouth, but don't read. I read all the time. You sound like the one who doesn't read. It seems like you might be the one who's reading, who's lacking reading comprehension skills. Let me just turn off the bot mode. That'll turning it on subs only mode should kill most of the spam bots. So if you're looking to genuinely have a conversation, now's your time to hit that subscribe button. I'm always able to come here and learn the news. I'm a day late on everything. Thanks, Phoebe. Today my manager upped the gas prices. Yeah, that's going to be happening across a lot of different places. There's going to be a lot of gas stations upping their prices because the cost of a barrel of oil has gone way up. That is to be expected when the Strait of Hormuz is closed because Iran is a giant source of a lot of the world's oil, and a lot of the countries that have been relying and reliant on Iranian oil for a while are going to have to turn to other countries. It's a bunch of economic malfeasance that will eventually end up in Americans paying higher prices for gas, Europeans paying higher prices for gas, probably people the world over, honestly, paying higher prices for gas, and will lead to a massive wave of destabilization across the Middle East that I don't think is going to be one and done. Trump says that this is only going to last 4 or 5 weeks. I don't think any of us should trust him on that. Why? What reason have we to trust the administration on this one? What reason have we to believe that it's only going to be 4 or 5 weeks? How could it only be 4 or 5 weeks? He's already saying to expect more deaths of U.S. service members, and if he's going to commit that much force and directive towards Iran, Iran is going to keep responding. And Iran, from all appearances, is depleting a much older missile stockpile than like their entire stockpile would suggest. They've got the capability to keep fucking shit up in the Middle East for 10, 20 years, depending on the peaks and valleys of the conflict. Why shouldn't we intervene? Because it's our intervention that's causing the missiles to fly. The reason why Iran is currently making things unstable in the Middle East, the reason why they're attacking U.S. bases all across the Gulf states and everything, is because the US and Israel attacked them on Saturday. They were literally in talks with the US over the course of the last month. Not only that, but they were willing to come to the table. It's not like they were unwilling negotiators that weren't coming to us in good faith. They had said on television, in telegrams, and in like direct to American ambassadors, there's been so much coming out of Iran. They have made it clear they are willing to completely give up on nuclear enrichment. They're willing to completely give up on an ICBM program. In fact, they've said they don't even want to make ICBMs, which is purportedly one of our top demands. For some reason, even though that's on the table, even though Iran, their foreign minister, their finance minister, their fucking like president, so many people have said that we are willing to acquiesce to the Americans' terms, for some reason it just never pans out on the negotiating table. Why is that? It's because we, the Americans, are the ones not coming to it in good faith. Obama was on the cusp of getting Iran to agree to a nuclear deal, and then Trump tore it up for his own ego. Spreading propaganda from the IRGC. Bro, I am literally just repeating the fucking facts on the ground as they appear to me. Like, Iran wasn't attacking anybody before this. You can claim all you want about their fucking proxies in every other country, but for some reason, we don't want to apply that standard universally. We don't want to call Israel out when Mossad goes and does shit in other countries and fucks with them. We don't want to call out America when we fund terrorist groups like the Contras in Nicaragua. We don't want to talk about America's long history of doing the same thing we're accusing Iran of. What about the 3 soldiers that got shot from Iran? Damn, almost like they wouldn't have been there and wouldn't have been able to get shot if it weren't for the U.S. and Israel being united in this idea of establishing Greater Israel and continuously engaging in oppression and aggression towards the Middle East. Damn, almost like Trump shouldn't have. It's almost like Trump and Netanyahu shouldn't have committed perfidy. Do you agree with me that those U.S. soldiers would still be alive if the United States and Israel had not committed perfidy by launching strikes during the middle of negotiations? Of course not, because you're all narrativized. You're all narrativized against this idea. I don't think you understand what perfidy means. Yes, I do. It's when nations betray. It's saying, yeah, we're negotiating on good terms. Yeah. It's 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 asking for a parlay just so that you can set off a bomb at the parlay table. That's exactly what the United States and Israel have done in both of their illegal wars with Iran in the last 2 years. In both of those cases, the United States and Israel engaged in talks with Iran and struck them while those talks were going on. By the way, if you want to make sure your comment or question gets read or answered, consider sending a super chat or donating via Cash App. You can find that down below. Either way helps. I appreciate it a ton, and that is the best way to add your voice to the discourse. Ain't no want to donut to you, bro. You can't even spell right. Don't tell me what people want to do and don't want to do. You don't even know shit from Shinola. You're forgetting any president would have done it because Israel told them to. Yeah, I've talked about that actually. I'm not forgetting about it. I've actively talked about it. It doesn't mean that Trump doesn't bear responsibility when he continues the fucking policy. Like if you run on an anti-war platform, I'm going to hold you to extra account when you then go and do war. You should probably learn to read before you try to insult, bro. Literally talking like we're still in 1992 and you have to type everything like T9 so that everything gets sent and none of it gets like caught by your like SMS filter. Do you understand how bad you make yourself look when you type like that? Look at that. Signet Solace. Thank you so much. High five, babe. Keep spitting knowledges. Thank you for the $5. I appreciate that. We out you. We're doing our best. Thanks again for the fiver. OMG, LOL, you somehow got a dono. I make my living off this shit, bitch. You think I care about your self-righteous bullshit in my chat? That's the funniest fucking thing that's been said in here all night, friend. You don't have to like join the membership, like, and therefore the rest of civilized society and become like a fully actualized person, but it'd be hella cool if you did. If you didn't care, you wouldn't acknowledge the comments. I literally make a living by talking to people in my chat, so that doesn't work for me, but I guess perhaps that works good for you when you use it on Facebook. Research before you talk shit, he, she. I've probably done a lot more research on this topic than you have, so don't talk shit. Are you a lesbian, by the way? Please say yes. I mean, I don't self identify as a lesbian. I'm bisexual and I'm a trans woman and I mostly date women. So I guess, like, in a sense, but I don't self identify as a lesbian. 1 second. Whee! Anyhow, what does this mean in the next few months for the world with all that's going on? Stuff to get worse? Yeah. So, what this means is, if I'm not wrong, there will be a protracted conflict in the Middle East that will be used as a justification to raise the military budget even higher. It'll probably be used as a justification to cut even more from SNAP, Medicaid, and other social safety net services, and it will also be used to further incorporate things like OpenAI and surveillance tech and shit like that into our daily lives. This is exactly the pattern that has happened with pretty much all of our Middle Eastern interventions. Now, the only difference between now, for example, in 2003, when we were invading Iraq, is that we don't have the basis of, and doing the Homeland Security Act and everything else, we don't have the inciting factor that was 9/11 going on in this specific instance. There's no big, like, catalyzing moment as of right now, which means they probably won't be able to do as much as they did in 2003. They're not going to be able to do a new Homeland Security Act. They're not going to be able to do, um, let me think of another one. They're not going to be able to do, like, the Patriot Act. Like, they're not going to be able to, like, redo these things, but they will continue to build upon them. They will take another step forward down that path using this as a justification. So look forward to that. Look forward to more of your tax dollars going for war. Look forward to MAGA people becoming even more insane and self-contradictory in their criticisms of Democrats and their praise for the Republicans and Trump in particular, and look for America to become continuously more enraged with itself and internally tense. Love that I ran into this chat. Yeah, it's a pretty cool place. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and like the stream. And I'm subscribing, so no, goodbye. Hopefully you never appear on my feed again. Aw, is someone mad? I just joined. Are you pan or something? No, I'm bisexual and I'm a trans woman. But other than that, I'm pretty vanilla. We are so divided it's scary. I mean, it's been like this at other times in our history, and I will comfort you with this. It's not as bad as it once was. Like during the era of the Civil War, America was effectively split into thirds, and very harshly too. Like very, very harshly. Now we're still split into thirds, but even within those thirds, we're split into even more micro divisions, and it's like I feel like we are way too atomized now to be as divided as we used to be, because it used to be a lot easier to get people to align on the basis of class, gender, race, creed, color, etc. Yeah, you're deactivated, bro. Watch. Literally, I've heard the same fucking dumbass threat from a million people over the course of my 2 years streaming. Ain't not a one of you been able to do it yet. So keep on talking your garbage. I'm not scared of you. I'm sorry. I'm just not. I'm not impressed. I'm not scared. You're not the first person to threaten me, and doing so just makes you look like an intellectually weak coward who can do nothing in an argument other than resort to threats. Mm, very ladylike? What exactly am I doing that's unladylike to you? Yeah, that's the thing. That's one of the reasons I like you, Mr. Flower, is that you're really good about not banning the trolls. You pretty much just ban people that are spamming or saying like the same dumbass like platitude over and over again. You're really good about that. Phoebe's a good person and very informative. I appreciate her. Some people need to mind their own fucking business and get a life. Damn, a life with King is fucking hitting them up in the chat. Grab your Glocks when you see Tupac. Call the cops when you see Tupac. Who shot me? But your punks didn't finish. Now you're about to feel the wrath of a miss. Nigga, hit him up. I wish I knew that old song. I ain't got no motherfucking friends. That's why I fucked your bitch. God, that's such a good song. Ignore the idiots, jealousy. Well, I know, dude. It's you have to understand a big part of my revenue stream is dunking on retards with an IQ half of mine. You got this, Phoebe. Keep fighting. We're in this together. Exactly. That's the attitude we need to see more of. This despair, this defeatism that I'm detecting out of people is garbage. It's awful. It's sloppulest horseshit. It's bad. It's bad for you. You know what hurts? Taking a stand. You know what doesn't feel fucking good at the time you're doing it? Marching through the streets in the fucking middle of July in 95-degree weather. But you know what makes real change? That shit. It hurts sometimes to stand side by side people who disagree with you, sometimes on some pretty fundamental things. But when you do that and you march for collective change and you get something like increased civil rights back in the 1960s, or increased recognition of the AIDS epidemic and increased recognition for police brutality back in the 90s and the 80s, when you get things like universal health care, like so many countries in Europe got using this tactic over the course of the 1950s to the 2000s. This is a tactic that works. Unity, solidarity, finding people of like mind in one way or another, talking to each other, coming to understand common axes of oppression and opposing those. Well, Geek of the Week, I was quoting a Tupac song. Like surely you don't think I wrote that, right? It's so cool you're bisexual and trans. I love your confidence. I'm subscribed now. My best friend is bi. People make fun of her, but I'm not confident at all. Well, you'll get there. Listen, confidence is a skill. You have to work at it. It's one of the few places where fake it till you make it kind of works. There is a certain vibe to a person who's confident, and it's something that they've cultivated, worked on, considered, chastised themselves over. There's a very rigorous process of self-reflection and iteration that goes on if you're trying to develop a personality, and it's something you have to work at. If you feel like you're not confident but you want to be, work at it. You will be eventually. If you feel like you're not confident but you're not worried about it, then don't worry about it. You can get by just fine in life not being all that confident. But it does help. I'll tell you that much. It's a buff. I never understand what protesting does. I'm for it, but I don't understand it. It's public pressure put on politicians, number one, and on a large enough scale, it can also be like damage to the economic engine. Ultimately, what all of the people in power in America and most of the developed world care about is money. They care about their factories continuing to produce. They care about the businesses that they have stock in continuing to do well. They care about themselves being able to get back and forth from their bureaucratic jobs. And when you make the engine of capitalism grind to a halt with mass demonstration, this forces change because it highly encourages change. I don't guess it forces change in every instance, but it highly encourages and incentivizes change because it places a financial incentive between the protesters and the corpo bureaucrats that they are opposing. It's the difference between like an effective mass demonstration that brings the engine of capitalism to a screeching halt is the difference between a weak, limp-wristed protest that does effectively nothing besides raising awareness and a strong, effective movement that guarantees change. If you stop the engine of capitalism in a democratic country, they have two options. They can either like shoot you guys all up in front of God and everybody and the media and the news and live, and like I said, in a democratic country that's not exactly an option. It's an option, but it's not really an option. So they have to do the other option, which is listen to you, go to the protesters, get a consensus of their demands and implement them. Vote Sonichu for president, be better than Trump. I think Chris Chan's little fucking wax medallion would probably do a better job running this country than Trump. I bet you Sonichu would not be getting us into an illegal war with Iran. I bet you Sonichu would not commit perfidy. She, her, hers are my pronouns. Watched your debate with Paul the other day. Loved it. Which side did you come out on, though, Mr. Flower? That's the important part. Are you a loyalist? Or are you a goddamn challenger? I noticed Riley has been watching less ever since that debate. Almost makes me feel like I didn't do that good. I don't know that I did, but I also feel like it was not. It was kind of an impromptu debate. It was more of like a little argument. I think, I feel like in order to really get some good blood sports between me and Paul out of this issue, or maybe just in general, I feel like we need to have a structured like argument where it's just me and him specifically. Like we're gonna disagree with each other. We're gonna figure out where we, uh, we're gonna air out all our fucking disagreements historically. That would be pretty fun. But I've been watching just the same. Okay, 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 okay. But I did see your comment. Yeah, I don't know that I made the best argument for my case, but I also feel like there are some people that are just kind of like narrativized against my case. And that's not necessarily like, that doesn't mean I see you as any less of a person or whatever. I think that there's a very practical reality behind the Reconstruction versus national divorce argument. And I land on the Reconstruction side because I simply do not see how you are going to prevent the South from like trying to rise up and reconquer the rest of America. Like the South is the nexus from which all of these fascist imperialist policies keep on coming. It's like the South and its influence from the Northeast. It's like there are so many fucking people from back when the Northeast was the nexus of America's imperialism that moved down south once it became the new frontier or whatever. And as a result of that, the like modern nexus of like fascist and hard right and imperialist politics in America comes directly from the Deep South. You are not going to address it by cutting it off from your country. You're just going to encourage it to build itself up into a military power and then invade you. And then you're going to have to fight a costly and bloody war, and you will probably win, but at the cost of lots of lives, lots of geographic area destroyed. And then you're going to have to do Reconstruction 2 anyway to make sure it doesn't happen again. So we should just skip directly to Reconstruction 2. Federal oversight over all tax money spent in the Deep South. Federal oversight over all elections in the Deep South. And federal oversight over policing and corrections. You did these 4 things, you could fix the Deep South. You could make it a place where democracy happens, instead of a place where the same 5 families in every county run everything. Four out of the 5 highest poverty-stricken states are hard red states. Do not let the media lie to y'all. Yeah, 100%. It's because of the policies, too. It's because the policies encourage corporations to build themselves up at the expense of the working class. You have to have a balance for baseline sustainability. And morally, I think that the balance should be in the hands of the workers. The mean people in chat need to shut up, because if they're here watching this live, yeah, literally, if you've been watching for 30 minutes, which is how long we've been streaming at this point, you love the fucking stream. So you should just admit it and start like trolling with some humor or trying to have an actual conversation. Like, why are you spending so much time getting to know somebody that you're just engaging with in such a baseline stupid way? I'm a nasty pig. I think it says more about you that you would say that about a random stranger than it does about me. You want change, I get it. You want to be understood, I get it. You want to be seen and heard, I get it. But until you go to Christ, that need will never be truly satisfied. I'm going now. Christ is not the answer. I grew up with a Christian answer for all my problems, and I found it wanting. Workers' rights should be one of the most important topics right now. Workers' rights is the most important topic right now. The reason why the US and Israel are engaged in a bombing campaign against Iran is because there is a consolidation of power amongst the bourgeoisie and the political class, and they have created a world in which their profits reign supreme. The working people of Iran no longer matter. The working people that are going to be sent overseas from America, Israel, other countries in the West, their lives don't matter as they are fed to this meat grinder. 6 lives destroyed already in the hubris of war. Why? On the American side, I'm not even talking about the people that Iran's dropped in Israel or the people that Iran's dropped in Qatar or Kuwait or Oman or Saudi Arabia. I'm just talking about U.S. service members killed. How many of my brothers, sisters, mothers, fathers, husbands, how many are we supposed to sacrifice for their illegal war? When it gets up to 100, will that be enough for you fucking ghouls? When it gets up to 9,000, will that be enough for you fucking ghouls? When there's a mountain of American bodies in Iran, will that be enough for you fucking ghouls? Exactly how many of your tax dollars do you want to burn, and how many American corpses do you want to throw on this pyre? Ghouls. Bibi's never happy and always wants more war. 100%. You can literally look at him making the same argument he's made against Iran in this conflict and the one last year for the last 25 fucking years. the last 30 years. Last 30 years, Bibi Netanyahu's been telling the same lie about Iran. For 30 fucking years, motherfuckers been saying they're a week away from getting nukes. 30 fucking years, motherfuckers been saying if we didn't strike now, we could never have stricken in the future. Not explaining why, never demonstrating why. They've got all the intelligence in the world if you ask them, but they don't want to share any of it with us. If the United States stopped fighting, do you think Iran would just give up and quit? That's not how it works. No, we need to, yes, quit attacking Iran, but at this point, like, we've started, like, that's why this is a fucking beehive you don't stick your dick into, right? Like, now that the die is cast, we might have to continue military action for a fucking while. Either that or just withdraw all our bases and personnel from the Middle East and leave it to its tender mercies. Like, like at this point, we are in this in a way that we didn't have to be. And the way out might be as simple as we just stop attacking and we let Iran get a little bit more aggression out. And we pressure them to stop by saying, we are ready to come to the table. Here's our terms. We make them acceptable to the Iranians, who have already publicly stated what terms they are okay with. They are okay with not having ICBMs. They're okay with having a limited nuclear program. They're okay with letting international investigators and inspectors into their facilities. It is the Americans who have not been approaching in good faith. It will never be enough. The elite of us are drunk on their own greed, hate, and hubris, egos all consuming. Yeah, literally, they have become a class of people completely unconcerned with the needs, wants, desires, hopes, and dreams of people below them. The people that make their food, the people that grow their food and make their products, they don't care about it anymore. They don't care about us as a group. They don't care about us even as like an interest group or a focus group or a fucking voter base anymore, hardly. That's why the Democratic Party has remained a party of staunch moderates, despite basically everybody calling for Bibi Netanyahu's blood over the last fucking 2 or 3 years. That's why the Democratic Party are slowly they pretty much become, at this point, a party that's led by center-right Republicans in blue ties. They don't deserve it. We've all seen what they're capable of doing, what they want to do. Look at the way they treat women and children in their country. You realize the same is fucking true of Afghanistan, Syria, fucking Saudi Arabia. Like, do you know anything about the Middle East? None of them score high on civil rights charts. None of them ever score high in terms of like their progressivism and human rights fucking abilities, their civil rights protections and shit. These are horrible places. Horrible places that we continue to do business with. If you think it's bad when jihadis run a country, just wait till you hear about who's behind Saudi Arabia. Wait till you hear what royal family Osama bin Laden was connected to. You think that's just a fucking coincidence? You think Osama bin Laden's the only fucking crazy religious fundamentalist in his damn family? You really think that? He's just lone duck. Just only one out there. Nobody else in the Saudi bin Laden family. I don't believe that. I don't buy that for a second. Tell me you're writing a song about Iran. I should. It would be a good idea. I should. I'm sure Jesse Wells has already got one out. I wish I had that motherfucker's talent for songwriting. He is able to. I sometimes feel like he will read like a news article or three and then be able to write a song immediately afterwards and have it published by the afternoon because it is crazy how quick the turnaround is with him. I think that's, and honestly, I don't agree with everything he says either because like he's got this song that's like really critical of weed and shit that I think is like obnoxious. And there's a few other things I've heard where I'm like, oh, okay, whatever. But for the most part, I like him, and for the most part, I like his positions. And I think that he is really fucking smart in the way that he did his own promotion, which was basically he did the content creator. He applied the content creator strategy to music creation. He was like, okay, well, Vosh, Hassan, Destiny, all these big content creators, they base like what they do off of what's going on in the news. What is everybody fucking talking about? What's trending? And he basically like does that from like this like lefty workers' rights kind of musical perspective, and it's a really effective tactic. It really resonates with people. Music resonates more easily than political content does. Political music can convey a political message more effectively than that same message explained in theory could. What up with that black pentagram behind you? I just like symbols that scare weak minded people, honestly. That's it. Satanist. My biggest flop say greatest hits. The game's mine again and Kells and ain't nothing changed but the lock. So before I say this bitch, mwah, give Jade a kiss. Had to wake up play by day to this. Being rich shamed by some prick because I said his goddamn name. Now I got a cock back aim. Yeah, bitch, pop champagne to this. Your moment. This is it. As big as you're gonna get, so enjoy it. Had to give you a career to destroy it. Lethal injection, go to sleep 6 feet deep. I give you a beat for the effort, but if I was 3'11", you could. You look up to me, and for the record, you would fucking suck a dick to fucking be me for a second. Look at ball sack to get on my channel. Give your life to be a solidified. This motherfucking shit is like Rambo when he's out of bullets, so what good is a fucking machine gun when it's out of ammo? Had enough of this tatted up mumble rapper. How the fucking him and I battle? He'll have to fuck him in my flannel. I'll give him my sandals because he knows as long as I'm shady, he's going to have to live in my shadow. Holy shit. Look at that. $49.99 from Captain Crispy. Captain Crispy. Captain Crispy? I don't know. But I appreciate the $50. That is a stellar donation. Do you agree with any of Trump's policies? I'm a Trump supporter, but don't agree with everything. Also, we don't have the same access he does. First Amendment rights. Keep talking to us all. Godspeed to you. Hey, well, I really appreciate that super chat. Not just because it's a lot of money and I make my living doing this, but also because that's a really kind thing to say there at the end. So, yeah, I think that Trump's policy towards weed has been the most leftist of any president we've ever seen, including Democrats. Like, Obama was never fucking trying to actively deschedule weed. You know, like, Trump has actually taken big steps towards increasing the friendliness of the federal government towards cannabis and cannabis legislation. So I fully agree with that. I think it's great. And I think I agree with a lot of the like sloppulist, what I like, what's popularly called sloppulist kind of shit that Trump says. These sort of like populist kind of things, like where it's like no tax on tips. I kind of like the idea of, working class people working in restaurants or as valets and shit like that, not having to be taxed on the meager tips they earn. Oftentimes that cuts into the hourly paycheck that they make, and they sometimes don't end up making hardly anything on their main paycheck. So I think that is a good way to put more money in the hands of working people on some level. I don't know that it's actually like good policy long term. I don't think it addresses the core problem. Really, you should probably be trying to eliminate the system of tipping in America. But as long as we're going to have it, it is probably an effective way to put more money in the hands of everyday people to not tax them on their tips if they're in a tipped profession. No tax on tips is only up to a certain amount. It goes away in 3 years. Yeah. That's another big problem with it. That's why I say, like, that's why I talk about it in critical terms, right? A lot of the things that I agree with Trump on are things that I think he's really only doing for, like, clout, basically. And I think that the reason why you can't, like, get behind them with full-throated support is because he's not really doing them the way you need to do them. Like, I wouldn't get behind Bernie Sanders if he had gotten elected and did, like, Medicare for all, but only as long as I'm around or my friends. Like, if it turned out that the Sanders medical plan expired in 4 years, I'd be pretty pissed. You know, I would not consider that, like, having reached my goals. Would you want Iran to possess nuclear warheads with the higher agenda pushing death to America? Do you believe someone should intervene with a policy committee? Iran has said that they don't want nukes. They have said in a lot of cases that the Quran effectively forbids them from having nukes. And normally, I'm not apt to trust religious fundamentalists when they say, like, this and that about my religion. But once they achieve, like, the theocracy status, that's basically like them telling you what their law is. Like, that's as close as you can get. And I've read into the argument that the Quran pretty expressly forbids weapons of mass destruction, and I think that it checks out theologically. I don't know if you can necessarily trust an Ayatollah or any mullah out there, for that matter, in matters of their honesty and sanctity in a deal. But I do know this much: there is no quicker way to liberalize Iran and normalize relationships with them and make them a country that's more willing to have our inspectors over in their country and everything else than to approach them with a fair-minded deal and in good faith from both sides that allows them to maintain their autonomy and defense while also guaranteeing the international community oversight to ensure that nuclear proliferation does not continue. I genuinely believe in my heart that Iran is willing to cooperate on that level. I think that they have been willing to cooperate on that level for a while. I think that America wants the whole taco. I think that we're not sufficient with that. I think that we've basically been telling the Iranians either dispose of the IRGC and the Ayatollah, or we bomb you. And of course, they're not going to take that. But you know what is ironic? If we would just go to them in good faith with an honest deal that continues them, like, the ability that continues to guarantee them, like, the right to sovereignty and self-determination and all that shit, but also guaranteed our right to inspection, and we've normalized relations with them, that would liberalize them. That would not only guarantee our ability to make sure that they're not, like, going back on their treaty obligations or whatever, but it would also liberalize them with continued contact with American contractors, continued contact with American politicians. And in doing so, the IRGC would probably be either taken, like, either made inept by a continued policy of liberalization politically, or just, like, there would be, like, a counter revolution or some kind of, like, new revolution that upsets the old fucking thing. And, like, okay, we see how, like, this is the thing. If we really wanted long lasting democratic freedoms in Iran, the best way we could do that is by normalizing relations with them and getting them a bunch of American Starlink accesses and shit, like distributing communication protocols throughout the country. And by normalizing relations with this country, another thing that's worth noting, right? And I was talking about this last night, but I'll talk to you guys about it too. Another thing we have to keep in mind is that once we normalize relationships with Iran, we can now influence their government with means that are actually better at coercion than just force. The threat of force often causes a violent reaction just as a matter of, you know, standard. But if we normalize relations with them, we started trading with them, we started coordinating with them to, like, develop their nuclear program in a civilian way, and maintain like um, inspection rights over it, we would be able to, because we would set up like a foreign aid kind of relationship with them and a monitoring relationship with them, we would be able to exercise economic leverage over them in order to get them to guarantee more civil rights. So you normalize relationships with them for like 5 years, and then you. This is a strategy we could also, by the way, apply to Saudi Arabia and a ton of other countries in the Persian Gulf and shit. But that's aside the point. Um, we normalize relations with them, and then in 5 years, we say, okay, well, if we're going to continue to have this good relationship and rebuild your infrastructure and help you solve your water crisis, we're going to need you guys to stop hanging gay people or stop, sending people to prison for homosexuality. We're going to need you guys to stop requiring women to cover their faces. This is an economic lever. Once you've established relationships with a country, you can do that. Once you've established like an interconnected network, I'm not trying to sound like Kissinger, but that's just kind of the way things work. Like you gain control over a country in a way more direct fashion inter by creating this like interdependency. That's against their beliefs, though. I don't agree. The reason why they chant death to America is because America's been fucking them over for fucking 100 years. The reason why they fucking believe that is a direct result of like, it's not like America was not around when the Quran was written. It's not like they are doctrinally opposed to America's existence. Let me see here, Matt. Let me read. If radical Islamist countries were allowed to advance to the point that they could be a threat to the United States and Europe, not only that, but wanted to push Islam at the edge of a sword, how would we feel at that point? Well, the truth of it is that I feel like we've kind of already seen like how you respond to that. Like the Ottoman Empire, for example, was a caliphate. It was an Islamic state, and it sought to push Islam at the point of a sword. What was the response? Well, Europe and countries in like that abutted the Ottoman Empire pushed back. Countries that were once part of it overthrew their Ottoman leaders and rejected them and pushed them out. And over time, eventually, it was reduced to, you know, just Turkey. So what happens if that happens? Well, I guess we fucking go to war with them at that point, you know? Like, I don't believe in aggressing against a country that has not aggressed against us. It's a basic humanitarian principle of engaging in war lawfully. How do you deal with the atrocities of the Iranian regime against their own people? You normalize relationships between the United States and the West broadly and Iran and their government. You start getting American contractors to help work on their infrastructure, help solve their water crisis, help fucking sell some of this oil and shit. Um, you normalize relationships with that country and then start making demands of their civil rights conditions. So, like I said, 5 years go by. All right, well, we've been making good progress in our relationship here. You guys don't chant death to America anymore, which is nice. But, sorry, no more, like, you can't make women wear the thing. If they want to, they can. But you can't make them. Like, no more disappearing people for that. No more disappearing people for protests. And slowly but surely, you liberalize the fuck out of them to the point where eventually the populace becomes so openly, loudly liberal in their interests and ideas that they revolt against the power structure as it exists, or they replace it with a democratic uprising. Iran has not aggressed upon us. Literally every act of aggression that Iran has done in its existence as a modern state has been in direct response to Western aggression. With what money, and how do you do that with the regime that controls? We spend literally billions of dollars just pissing away like money on stupid projects that never go anywhere all the time. I'm actually advocating for us pouring money into something that would do something and have a positive effect. We love to burn our money for no discernible reason here in America. Why not on something that might have a good effect? One could argue the American government's favorite thing to do with taxpayer money is waste it. I'm actually advocating for us to spend it in a way that would be productive. I love that you try to come at this from a logical standpoint, but logic is not a factor in our government. I know. I know. Well, but you have to talk about what would be better. You have to talk about what would be better because part of the reason why I think the left loses in America so consistently is because we are very good at complaining. We are very good at systemic analysis and pointing out the problems. We are not very good at offering people coherent, cogent alternatives and alternatives. Counterintuitives. God, I'm a fucking retard. Anyway, you get what I'm trying to say, right? We're very good at like systemic critique. We're not very good at painting a picture of a new world and a better world. Well, thank you, Amethyst Angie. Iran wants to advance their electrical system. That means they need nuclear plants. It also means they technically could make some more heads. Israel knows this, so they cannot be allowed to have nuclear. That's the thing, though. In the Iran deal that Obama was signing up, that was negotiating with Iran, we would have had inspection rights over their shit. We would have had a treaty guaranteeing them a certain amount of protection and um, international cooperation and the right to self governance and determination and self defense. But we would have had oversight over their program that would have ensured that they didn't build or acquire the technology to refine the uranium to the point where it could be used for warheads. How easy would it be for a nuclear program for energy to be turned into a nuclear program for assault? Incredibly difficult. There's a reason why so many countries have fucking nuclear power plants and so few countries have nukes. I'm not trying to make you feel bad or anything. I'm just saying, like, there's a reason why nukes are pretty rare and nuclear power is pretty common. We have to stop complaining and just plainly stop conforming. We're trying to beat the government in their own game. At the end of the day, it is no longer the people in revolt is coming. I agree 100%. That's why I keep telling people eventually there will be a mass protest movement that will demand your attention. And if there's any way you can attend and be a part of it, you need to be. And it's not going to be like the No King's Day protest. I'm talking about a months long, like Occupy Wall Street, but in every American city kind of thing. I'm talking about millions of people descending on Washington, D.C. in an act of civil disobedience, flooding the streets and parks and sidewalks with hippies and soccer moms and disenfranchised conservatives and laborers and fucking unionists and shit. I honestly believe the U.S. will say all day, let's start removing nuclear stock, but America will never do that ever. You give up your biggest advantage in doing that. I don't know. I think that America is going to continue this war against Iran until we have fucked them up to the point where we've guaranteed like 20 years of regional instability, because that is what Israel needs to continue its project of Greater Israel. We need to protest. That would probably do a lot paired with mass protests where we need to boycott. Yeah. Well, boycotts can work, but the problem with society today, and America in particular, is that if you're actually going to do a boycott, like who are you going to boycott? If you're going to boycott Trump-aligned billionaires, you're going to basically become a Luddite. So who do you boycott? We'll give you guys an opportunity to talk about that and respond. Consider sending a super chat or a cash app donation, and I will be right back. Oh shit. We okay. Now we're back. Oh, let's see where we're at. Boycotting every major company that feeds the system would hurt their wallet. That's what I'm talking about. That's the problem. If you boycott every major company, how would you live? Like, you know, the service sector employs a profound amount of people. The retail sector, a profound amount of people. There are just so many people employed by this system. I mean, yeah, I agree. A mass boycott would work, but it's like if you were going to do the mass boycott, you would almost be like incentivized at that point to join in a mass protest because you would be in a position where you would be like very much reliant on a like fucking very small number of companies and outlets. And at that point, I mean, why not join some mass protest movement that is already highly reliant on mutual aid and solidarity and only shopping from specific places and shit? Y'all say boycott probably got the brand new iPhone. They got your money already. I don't have a brand new iPhone. I got a fucking Motorola. So, and it's like 3 or 4 years old at this point. Israel said they would use nukes in this conflict if we did not get involved and help out. Interesting. I didn't think Israel was supposed to have nukes. I love how when Israel's asked about whether or not they have nukes, it's like Schrodinger's nuclear weapon, man. They're like, no. Unless you bomb the fuck out of us, in which case, yes. Solidarity in a fractional society won't work, though. Nobody agrees on a thing. A lot of the oh man, a large part of the reason why nobody agrees on a thing is because nobody believes in solidarity anymore. Believing in solidarity grows solidarity. Seeing people out there on the line protesting for what they believe in, standing up for their rights as workers, whatever the case might be, that I mean, it's just it has such a fucking good effect. It not only teaches like adults in that society that there's a movement there that they can join, that there's a way for them to be active politically that's not just voting, but it also teaches kids the same fucking thing, and that is ingratiated in their mind even more. So it's like it can have compounding effects over the course of years. If you've got like a 20% uptick in protests in one year, you'll probably see like a 40% uptick in protests over the course of the next 20 years. Like, it's a great thing. You show people doing it. You show people engaging in mutual aid. You show people engaging in activities that better themselves and their community. And people are inspired to engage in it themselves. But who do we even boycott? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. Boycotting wouldn't stop a government funded project like foreign aid and nuclear energy. I think our involvement is being over exaggerated to a degree. I don't think our involvement is being exaggerated at all. I think the United States is, we are the great Satan, as the Ayatollah used to say. And we don't have to be. It's a position that we've put ourselves in entirely. But we have chosen to underwrite and fund Israel's like attempted conquest of the Middle East. We've done effectively nothing to stop them or even really infringe on it at all. The powerful and rich of this country are doing horrible things. Israel's using that as blackmail. It's pretty bad. You know, the sad thing is, I don't even know if Israel can really use that as blackmail anymore. Pretty much everyone in America that is going to ever believe that Trump is a pedo believes that Trump is a pedo. Pretty much everyone in America who would ever believe, like, you have to understand, Matt, there are people in this country who are so narrativized and so propagandized by the right wing that there is no amount of evidence that you could point them towards. There is no evidence. There's not a sufficient amount of proof. There is not a sufficient amount of. There's just nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. There's no way to infringe on what they believe unless they decide to come to a different position themselves spontaneously for some reason. I wish it wasn't that way. I know that sounds bleak, but you have to understand that's such a small percentage of the population too. Um, that being said, the whole reason I bring that up is because I don't think that Israel is any longer able to use the old tactics it used to in order to keep Western leaders in check and enforce its will around the globe. I know my mother and father are the same way. Any evidence to pop up, it's fake news and Trump is a good Christian. So many are deep in that cold hole. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it is sad. One of my best friends is a huge MAGA guy, and I can't convince him of any of Trump's stuff. Yeah, literally. They're the people that are like pro-Trump at this point are. There is no convincing them. There is no talking them out of it. There is no. There's no talking them out of it. Well, I'm reticent to say that though, because it's like if there's not, what's the point, right? But it's not that there's no point in talking them out of it. It's that the point in talking them out of it is no longer the idea that they'll eventually come around and see wisdom and understand how bad this is for themselves and everybody else included. I feel like the point is now to make the argument so that other people around hear that they're not alone or are perhaps dissuaded from going down the same pipeline. Because I genuinely believe that there comes a certain point where I think a certain combination of like baseline mental makeup and susceptibility and getting exposed to hard right media content, I think a special combination of that results in a person who, at the end of it, cannot be dissuaded. cannot be, will not be. And really, the most alarming thing to me about that, because there's always been crazy conspiracy nuts, and some of them have been political. There's always been people that are like crazy wackadoos that believe in a completely bullshit idea about reality. But those crazy wackadoos used to be pretty far and pretty few and far between. Now I feel like they're a dominant force. Now I feel like you fucking see them everywhere. They're not a dominant force, maybe, but they're a force growing in its relevance. Age just destroyed my parents. Where they were super cool. At some point, they owned and ran a rap majority black nightclub, etc. Now it's just all hate. My parents are gone. That's really sad, Matt. That's genuinely sad. That's just so sad, dude. I'm telling you, age is doing it in a lot of cases. And in a lot of cases, I think it's just hatefulness. The scourge of hatefulness has become omnipresent in America. And I think that's part of the reason why there's a sizable MAGA movement, even despite all the shit that's come out about Trump. Because there's kind of always been an undercurrent of hatefulness, I think, in America, deriving from our Puritan roots and the open willingness of early industrialists to use propaganda and to set agendas according to their will. But I think things have gotten worse. And I understand why it's kind of hard for people to talk about it. When you say victims of circumstances that are in their control, are you talking about like healthcare costs? Because nobody can control that. I feel like a lot of people that go along with this line of rhetoric are really not worried. They're not actually concerned that they're not actually concerned that there's like a critical mass of people, some big, percentage that is just looking for a handout and shit like that. They are legitimately pissed at the very idea that anyone ever should have it easier than they did. Because in all of these countries that have a wide and abundant social safety net, they don't have some like undercurrent of fucking sleazes and, slouchers and shit. So I feel like it's really just some people just don't want to see other people living good as they got it, or getting it any easier than they got it. It's a very fuck you, got mine attitude, but it really dominates America and it helps to explain a lot. I think you shouldn't complain about having it hard, is all. Why? Why shouldn't anyone complain? Complaints are good. Complaints are a necessity in a democracy to ensure forward progress. Most of the European Union has a safety net because they didn't use their money for defense that was exported to the United States to do. So why do all those countries have well-developed militaries that have armor programs and weapons programs? Why is the M1 Abrams equipped with a German cannon? It's a Rheinmetall L-20 on the fucking Abrams. Made in the US under license. Developed in West Germany. So, care to explain that one? By all accounts, the modern variants of the Leopard A2, um, they outperform the fucking M1. So, what will complaining do if you don't have an action to change it? Then you're just wasting energy. That might be true of you. In my case, I live stream, and while I don't have that many people in here right now, sometimes we have a couple of hundred people in here listening. Ostensibly, my complaints might encourage someone else to think about the issues at hand. Your complaints might actually do the same thing, just on a smaller scale. No tank on Earth has been as successful on the battlefield as the Abrams. That's just bullshit. There are tanks from World War II that have been more successful than the Abrams has, just in terms of units destroyed. I will be right back. Okay. And we're back. All's well. Well. Hello, everyone. Hello. Trying to find that damn joint. I was gonna smoke some weed, but then I got high. I was gonna light a fat blunt, but then I got high. Okay. Do you play banjo? Um, kind of. I can fuck around on a banjo. Estimated arsenal of around 90 warheads. Despite this, Israel maintains a policy of nuclear ambiguity or opacity. Huh. And from what I understand, they're not part of any of the like non-proliferation treaties or anything like that, right? Okay, Phoebe. Okay, Virginia. Hit me up with it. Yep. Yep. I feel like this is the quiet before the storm. Maybe. Damn it! I don't know. I don't know if you're asking me, Mr. Flower, but no. No. Nobody I know of. I've been out of the army since 2011. Got blown up in Afghanistan. Was med boarded, but it's usually pretty damn cold this time of year, but beautiful. Damn, that's horrible. I'm glad you made it out okay. Despite everything. Um, I will tell you this much: a lot of pictures I've seen of Afghanistan make it look like certain parts of the American Southwest. I feel like they got similar mountains. That's horrible, Riley. That's a lot to have to go through. It's a lot for a motherfucker to live through. Okay, that's the last of the pipe. Done with it. Done with it. My granddad was a lieutenant in a recon cavalry division at the very end of the Vietnam War. He never got deployed, but he did a lot of training exercises and shit for other men who did. Damn. Yeah, that's wild. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people in America have family with military service. I'm sure somebody in my family has served. I just not in my immediate family. Can't think of any grandparents or parents. Israel's nuclear opacity ensures it avoids international inspections and, in its view, prevents the introduction of nuclear weapons in the Middle East while maintaining regional deterrence. Yeah, so they've got a backwards, double-think fascist position that enables them to have nukes, but not tell anybody about it and not allow oversight. And we're just supposed to trust that they're the good guys. Are we now too old for the draft, Phoebes, or will they want everyone under 35 for the new Forever Wars? I don't think there's going to be a draft. Military recruitment has gone way up over the last year. Um, I think that it's very likely that they will not need to implement a draft, but if there is one, they're not going to come for people our age first. They're going to come for people under 25 first. And then if they need more, they'll come for people, 30 and under. So I'll be swept up in that. And then on and on. Hi, Taylor. I doubt there'll be a draft to piss too many people off. Yeah, yeah, it would piss like too many. Well, I don't know how much that matters though. Honestly, I don't think it really matters if you piss people off anymore because we've effectively decoupled the people's will from the political machine here in America. We just don't act in an organized and coordinated enough way. But maybe we would. Maybe they fear that we would if they introduce the draft. While we're at it, abolish the draft. Yeah, 100%. You shouldn't be able to be compelled by the state to go fight for oil profits. Fuck that. They don't give a fuck about pissing us off anymore for sure. Yeah. Literally. If they gave a fuck about pissing us off, they would have already been done doing something about the Epstein files. The fact that they haven't and don't appear to have any intention of doing so, I think that that demonstrates how they feel about public will. We've been domesticated. Yep. We've been effectively domesticated. We have been um, made tame for the ruling class. And most of us just accept it with an infinitely patient shrug. I will sit in a jail cell before I go to war unless it is on our home soil. Yeah, I feel you there. Unbelievable. What a sad and unfortunate timeline. I agree, Pink Fur. I suppose it'd piss enough people off where suddenly their lives are now government owned and forced to be a military truck to the nearest base, which would cause some sort of action against it. I would hope. I really would hope. But like, you know what this need epidemic real like represents partly? Like part of what the need epidemic represents is a cadre of people that literally are just going to they're going to live whatever life they're regimented into living. Does that make sense? So if their parents because their parents allow them to be like like fat schlubs sitting around in a dark room playing video games all day long, doing literally nothing to earn an income or whatever, because they allow that and they have a specific regimentation that works for them and have rules in the house and everything they have to keep up with because that is a person who is not going to it's very hard to get someone like that to protest. I think you would be more likely to get a person like that to just go to war than you would be to get them to protest against it. But maybe I'm wrong about that. I just feel like that there's a lot of easily led, bored people in the US that are pretty much going to do what they're told to do. And I feel like the need epidemic is one example of where that plays out. Simply them starting it up again would anger people, but if they went door to door, if they went door to door for able-bodied men and shit would be a step too far. Yeah, that would definitely cause some riots and reactions for sure. I'm not saying there would be no reaction. I just don't know that it would be a coordinated enough response to stop the policy. Well, just at me next time. Just got off my fifth hour of Animal Crossing. Well, you're different because you're Taylor and you're like different. But I mean, if Taylor wants to sit around playing Ocarina of Time for 12 hours a day and get paid for it, I think that, I mean, that's her God given right. But, not everybody can be that. My therapist thinks I'm different too. No, for real, the truth of it is, like, not everybody should work in this fucking stupid ass capitalist society. Though I do think most of the people that I was thinking about when I was talking shit about needs are not, they're not like disabled or, I mean, some of them have some disability here or there, but it's something that they could like work around, you know, if if they had any interest in self improvement. And I feel like it's honestly one thing to be a NEET that has at least gone through some like self improvement and has like it is developed enough to like have a partner and shit like that. You're living, at that point. And I don't feel like you're necessarily a NEET in the sense that I think of whenever I'm like digging at them. I'm thinking about people who are like, I guess failure to launch might be a better I might be a better, like, descriptor. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to get off here soon. It's getting close to 2 hours. I'll start working again soon, probably. Like I said, I mean, like, there are extenuating circumstances in your particular case that I think makes it different, and, like, I've always made that exception. Like, if somebody's, like, genuinely got a condition or multiple that prevents them from, like, working in the economy that surrounds them or whatever, like, that's fucking why we need a social safety net. But I do think that productivity helps people, even if it's not necessarily like capitalist productivity. Even if it's just like washing the dishes and doing the laundry and sweeping and doing some mopping and shit like that. Even that level of productivity can, I think, have a salutary effect on one's consciousness. It makes you feel like you did something, and it makes you feel, it gives you an opportunity to experience different things and to like ground yourself in present time. But I just got here. Well, we've still got like 15 minutes, but can't stay on all night. I'm not made for capitalism. I'm made for the vegetable garden. I agree. I agree. And I think that that's probably true of most of us. But the vegetable garden is a perfectly acceptable form of productivity. I want to create a world in which people have to the freedom and are incentivized, in fact, to create their own little village communes in their neighborhoods, turning their lawns into gardens, turning their backyards into food forests, cooking in their driveway for them and their neighbors. I would love to see a world where people are incentivized to engage in that sort of like social productivity and that sort of like long term ongoing self care. A community of women did just that. I forget where. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you that there are people that want this. And honestly, what I'm talking about is not that dissimilar to how life was in certain neighborhoods, like all the way up to like the 90s, early 2000s. Like there were certain neighborhoods that kind of operated like this for a long time, just without the food forests, without the front yard gardens. Maybe they had a victory garden in their backyard or something, but the idea of turning residential areas into places that produce enough food for at least 50% of the households in that area is a revolutionary one, but it's way more attainable than people understand. And it doesn't mean you have to turn your whole yard into a mud pit either. I think that's another reason why people get against the idea. They think of turning their yard into a garden. They're like, what? But then the whole yard's just gonna be a mud pit for half the year. It's like, no, 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 it's not it's not how you do it. You do like raised beds, or you do rows that are like you've got like two rows and then you space it with a pathway between another two rows, and then you've got like, so you got two rows and then pathway, two rows and a pathway, two rows and a pathway. I sacrificed a whole ass baby to the blood moon, and still that blood fire wasn't summoned to chat. If it was a white baby too, those are high word. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Riley. Absolutely, people need to have some kind of purpose in their life, even if it's just a greet or Olmer to make them feel a part of something and have something to do. Yeah, yeah, and like I think it's got a, like I said, a salutary effect on the human mind. Whatever that productivity may be, it doesn't necessarily need to be or capitalist productivity. Maybe it's being a greeter at Walmart. Maybe it's being like a home gardener and a homemaker. For a lot of women, that is their safe space, and an increasing number of men. That is like the way they want to be. That is their like ideal. I love to garden and homestead. I'm about to make maple syrup on the staff that I have. I'm so jealous. I live way too far down south to have access to anything like that. But we do have sassafras, which means we can make homemade root beer. Pickle juice is good for joints and any inflammation. Yeah, if you ain't used it up all on the chicken marinade already. Pickle juice is a fucking dope ass marinade for chicken. Just don't let it sit in it too long. BB used to look at me sideways with my pickle pops. Yeah, because that shit's weird, dog. Weird as fuck, bro. I still look at you sideways with your pickle pops. Listen, dill and salt and vinegar are all good flavors. They're all good together. I like pickles. I'm a trans girl. Trust me, I like pickles. But to eat the frozen remains of a pickle jar is a level of depravity to which I cannot relate. Rubbing pickle juice on my knee will eliminate pain. Riley, I'm not gonna say one thing or the but I'm gonna tell you this, okay, Riley? One of the things that I learned pretty quickly about homeopathic medicines is the veracity of whether or not it's gonna work can sometimes be assessed pretty fairly by saying it out loud in a different way and seeing if you sound like a complete fucking insane person. Like, so I can rub this pickle juice on my leg and it'll cure it. All right. Yep. Nope. Probably not going to work. Something just, like on a vibe level, like intuitively, that seems like it won't work. No, the olive brine pops were depraved. Oh, oh, life is suffering and pain is existence. Anyway, so Taylor, you would be thrilled to know that I have way more recipes in my back pocket than I used to. I've always been able to cook a lot, but now I have a homemade red beans and rice recipe, and I mean like a homemade one, not the fucking box one that I introduced you guys to, but the fucking like fully homemade version with the fucking like ham hocks and the bacon, and it's like it's a TJ recipe, and I use it and I go through it and it's really good. So I make homemade New Orleans style red beans and rice, and it's fucking delicious. I make pizza now. I've got a couple of different recipes I use for pizza crust, but I make pizza and a really, really, really good pizza sauce. Like a fucking really top tier, unique fucking pizza sauce. Let's see here. What are some other things that I've added to my collection? Oh, I have an electric smoker now, so I smoke shit all the time. So, like, I make the best fucking Boston butt fucking ever. No, it's not the best ever, but it's the best I think I've had personally. Certainly better than what I've had at restaurants in the past. Let's see here. Made a brisket in there one time. That was nice. My oven broke. Oh, that's no good. Share with us, please. Red beans and rice. Just look up red beans and rice cooking with TJ number 2. It is, or I don't actually know if it's number 2. It might be number 1. But yeah, look up TJ, cooking with TJ, red beans and rice, and you'll find it. It's a video recipe, so you'll have to forgive me. But basically, in order to make it, you're going to need like bell peppers, onions, celery, all fresh, obviously. Uh, you're going to need some kind of pork product that is mostly connective tissue and shit like that. You're going to need something that takes a long time to cook down, but that adds a lot of flavor. So you're looking for ham hocks or neck pieces or something like that. If you can get them smoked, that's best. You're also going to need bacon and either andouille sausage or smoked sausage or something like it. You don't necessarily have to use andouille, but you can. It's the New Orleans standard to use smoked sausage. Let's see here. What else do you need? Other than that, you'll need chicken stock, light or dark red kidney beans. Doesn't matter if they're light or dark, but you'll need red kidney beans, uh, enriched long grain white rice, and you want to thoroughly rinse the starch off of it. You basically like start off like hmm, there's different ways you can start it off. Just watch the fucking video. Watch the video. Found it. I got a hammock in the fridge right now, and I'm a native Texan. Love me some andouille. Nice, nice. You got a ham hock. Nice, nice. You've got most of the ingredients then, Mr. Flower. And it's a really good recipe. I'm telling you, if you follow it the way TJ does it, it will turn out great, and it will taste so fucking good. So fucking good. Oh my god, it's the best fucking red beans and rice ever. It is so profoundly good. I live in Tennessee. How far south? I live in Mississippi, so. Did you know Smosh started in Sacramento? I did not. You got it from local butcher. I'll bring you a bowl. That'd be nice. But no, but seriously, let me think here. What are some other recipes that I've got put away in my back pocket now? I don't know. I know there's other things, but oh, dude, I made them the other day and I almost forgot about them. Philly cheesesteaks. I realized watching the DFF guys react to Brits eating American food for the first time, I realized I don't think I'd ever had an actual Philly cheesesteak in my whole life. So I couldn't get one around here or anything like that, but I homemade them. So I got some shaved ribeye. I got some some hoagie rolls, very fresh hoagie rolls, and yeah, I cut up an onion, diced it up nice, and cut up in little slivers actually. But I put that in there with the meat. Like I let them fry a little like separately, and then mixed them in together and let them fry up a little bit. And then I did it all on a griddle, so I got the authentic experience that way. And I did get cheese whiz and microwave it in a bowl for the fully authentic effect. And I have to say, I made the steak a bit salty, but overall, that bitch was fucking fire! Fire! Oh my god, Taylor, you would fucking die to eat my cheesesteaks. I don't know how I did it. I've never made it before. I didn't look up a recipe. I just fucking thought about like all the YouTube shorts I've watched of people in Philly making cheesesteaks, and I'm like, you know what? I can do this. My Philly friend insists it has to come from a Philly native to be the real thing. Oh, it does. It does for sure. I agree. I 100% agree with that. I would call mine a Philly style cheesesteak. Yeah, Philadelphians are a different brand indeed. They're a different breed indeed. There's a Philadelphian who hangs out in here sometimes. She's very nice. Kind of a Nick Fuentes defender, but she's like a hard leftist, so I can't really hold it against her. She's complicated. Where it comes from is bullshit. If you are a good cook and you use traditional ingredients, you can get the same thing. None of this in my water is needed bullshit. Dude. Uh, I don't know, man. I kind of like that. I kind of like that. And I'll tell you why. Because I think it helps inspire it helps inspire like local like admiration and local traditions and shit. It's like believing it's like believing that Mississippi's uniquely um like what's the word I'm looking for? Its uniquely recent history of settlement compared to the rest of the South and climate and its extensive swamps makes it a particularly good location for farming catfish. And Mississippi catfish just tastes better than anywhere else in the country. It's like, is that probably like scientifically true? I doubt it, but I kind of like the idea that people think that Mississippi produces the best catfish in the United States. Kind of like the idea that people think Louisiana produces the best crawdads. I kind of like the idea that Texas produces the best beef. I pulled up to someone's Animal Crossing for trading a bit ago, and it was a replica of Philly. It was insane. That is so fucking cool, though. That is literally awesome. Catfish tastes like dirty water in all parts of the country, I'm sure. No, it does not. Oh my god, Taylor. No, 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 no. No, it doesn't. No. Catfish does not have to taste like dirty water. There's literally a preparation method you can use to make catfish not taste like dirty water. And just nobody does it because I genuinely think that there are certain Southerners who genuinely like the taste of greasy ass, untreated, fucking unmarinated catfish. But if you want catfish to taste like fucking any other whitefish out there and not like that, because I agree it's unpalatable, you gotta fucking marinate that shit in a brine with some lime juice off in it. Some vinegar, I think, can also do it, but either one of those, you need some acids to break down that shit and help to carry it away, and then you rinse it off under some water, and then you fry it up or you fucking smoke it. And smoked catfish literally just tastes like it's so fucking good. Like what fishy flavor it does retain adds to the flavor. But it's not for everybody, to be fair. It's not for everybody. I would never like make you a catfish dish knowing that you don't like it. Everyone always praised my dad's fish. I still hated it. I think I remember us talking about this at one time. maybe do a cooking stream. I do have to schedule one with my friend Kenny. That's gonna come up soon. But yeah, that's fair. That was another interesting thing about your dad. He was like I don't know, surprisingly good cook, at least in my mind, well, my estimation. My wife hates any seafood. I get it. Twice a year, catfish is goat. I feel that 100%, dude. Am I'm the kind of person that I love seafood, but I do not. I'm not. I like seafood, but I like it to be done well. Seafood is so easy to fuck up. Most of the time, when it's done on a mass scale, it's fucked up. That's why I don't eat the fucking fish fillet at McDonald's. Because yeah, sometimes you get one that was cooked perfectly and prepared perfectly at the factory and everything else. But a lot of times you just get a fucking puck of grease and nasty shit. Frog legs are pretty good. Frog legs are good. His mom had 13 kids. Everyone in that house was cooking. Hey, that's fair. That's fair. Crazy to think about. Man, people had huge families back then. How do you feel about tartar sauce? I love it. Tartar sauce is really delicious. Tartar sauce is also surprisingly easy to make. It's basically just mayonnaise, mustard, dill relish. That that might be it. Maybe shredded onions. Ugh, he used to make frog legs too. Your dad had an accent that tells me that, like, I don't know. Do you know? Was your dad like originally from that area, or were his parents like perhaps from the south? Cause he sure enough had a country accent, that's for sure. My dad had a close friend that I grew up with, an uncle. My dad told me he would make a possum stew. He would boil the meat for hours and hours. He's a real hillbilly from California. My dad, yes, my mom's family came from Virginia. Oh shit, okay. Well, that would explain why your dad was cooking up frog legs then, for sure. One of the things I read about that area of Missouri back when I was living up there and reading about it because I was interested, and I've stayed interested and read about it occasionally since. But apparently, a lot of the people who settled that area of the Midwest were people who were moving up from the deep South in the years after the Civil War and in the years after Reconstruction. So it's interesting to think about. I ate horse steak in Italy. Oh man, that sounds really fucking good, dude. I don't know, dude. People say, "Oh my god, how could you eat a horse? They're so personable." It's like cows are personable too, and I eat them all the time. So I would eat a horse, but um, I just feel like horses are pickier about the food that they eat. Not that cows are like eating garbage all the time. It's just like I associate horses with a certain sort of refinement, and so it's like kind of cool to think about like eating a steak made of horse. Maybe I'm just a sicko. Is it wrong to sit around and fantasize about eating the flesh of another living thing? Probably on some level, right? Well, I mean, not objectively. You'd have to make the case. Oh, I never ate a frog leg. I'm iffy on meat, period. Yeah, I know. I know for sure. Cows are big dogs. Horses are one of my favorite animals. I'd still eat on a horse steak. Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I feel like there could be an animal that would love me a whole lot, but like your cat. Your cat loves you, but if you die, your cat's gonna eat your dead body. But that's okay. That's like the circle of life. If it not circle of life, then why your cat do that? I don't know. Everyone seems pretty down with eating various flesh sources. Yeah, but if you really do like sit and think about it, that's one of the reasons why I think vegans are interesting and why I kind of like, I'm like, because like on the one hand, I do find them very obnoxious, terribly obnoxious, profoundly obnoxious. But on the other hand, I gotta hand it to them. They do, you kind of have a point when they say that there is something like intuitively weird about it. Does that make sense? Am I the only person who feels this and continues eating meat otherwise, like despite it? Like I will regularly when I'm eating a piece of like if I'm eating a piece of chicken with a bone in it, I've fucking butchered chickens. I've raised chickens. I've been and like I've eaten chickens that I incubated in my bedroom in an incubator. You know, so I feel like for me it comes pretty naturally, but I will eat like a piece of chicken and think about what its life might have been like. And I actually get satisfaction knowing that meat that I produced here on the homestead didn't have a life full of suffering and misery and confinement, but rather had access to a wide ranging set of different pastures and yards and could get where it wanted to go and had access to all kinds of bugs and seeds and outside stuff. Yes, this small font is gonna make PB angry. Stop it. Cut it out. How do people even do this shit, bro? I don't get it, man. When did the internet become so easy to fucking game? When I buy chicken, I always think about how many different chickens the meat came from and if any of the legs match. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's worth like looking at and thinking about. It is fucking fucked up and crazy to think about, but that's why I am so against factory farming is because I think that all of these things we're talking about, the weirdness, I feel like the weirdness is amplified to a degree that becomes unnatural. And I feel like the ethics are broken when you start removing things from their humanity like that. Like when you start when you start mechanizing and dehumanizing like the process of manufacturing your meat and farming it and everything, I feel like the ethical problems become more pronounced and more normalized and easy to justify because there's less people involved in committing them and there's less people that have to see them all the time, and because the efficiency has been raised to such a degree that the market demands it go on. The best way, like, that's one of those things where, like, you can't boycott the whole meat industry, but what you can do is decide to only buy your meat from sources that you can trust. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and go. It is late. I'm very tired. I need to pee again. I gotta go. I will see you guys later sometime. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you all for the donations as always. I will see you guys around some other time. Bye.